race for the 2026 World Cup cranks up yet another notch over in Asia as we enter the fourth round of qualifying, with 6 countries left competing for spots in the World Cup next year. Who's going to take advantage in the next round of games? We're going to get into that and much more next. That's right, folks, back once again with another video. Today we're cranking it up once again over in Asia as we return to the qualifying stage. That's right, with 6 nations competing for a spot in the World Cup next year, who of course will take full advantage in this coming match day. Well, we'll get into all of that and more in a second. If you're new, where you been, smash your subscribe. You want to subscribe for Blackburn Rovers, World Cup qualifiers, Asian football. We're going to all here under one rooski. That's right. 6 nations are still in the mixer here. We got 2 spaces that could be aligned with the nations at the end of this coming week. But of course, it's not as easy as that, as of course we'll showcase you all of it in just 1 second. Big shout out to the members, big shout out to the patrons. You know who you are. But of course, we're right back in the thick of things with this, guys. It is the Asian World Cup qualifiers, and we're left with 6 nations competing for currently just 2 positions. But it's not that plain and simple. We've got much, much more to talk about. So let's check out how we got to this stage. That's right. Of course, the Asian qualifiers have gone on for a number of years now, and we're getting to the nitty-gritty with already some qualifiers in the World Cup waiting in the wings. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about this, guys. Recapping the results right here, right now. Already guaranteed a spot in the World Cup. We have Iran. That's right. They are there. They're joined by first-time competitors, Uzbekistan. They are signed and sealed. They're going to be there next year. They're going to be joined by South Korea and another debutante. Jordan will be joining the party over in the USA, Mexico, and Canada. And finally, Japan and Australia compete the 6-pack of Asian countries that will go into next year's World Cup. But we've got 2 more countries that can guarantee themselves a spot in next year's World Cup by completing this stage of the qualifying rounds, of course. And we're talking about the likes of the UAE, who finished 3rd in Group A. Qatar also joined them at this stage. We said goodbye to Tajikistan. We said goodbye to North Korea. Meanwhile, in Group B, we can say hello to Iraq and Oman. They make up this part of the qualification campaign. And Palestine and Kuwait said goodbye. And then finally, Saudi Arabia and my boys, that's right, Indonesia. They make it, of course, a trip to this stage with China and Bahrain bowing out. But of course, those nations are now separated into 2 groups of 3, and these are those, of course. Now, over the course of the next week, each one of these nations will play twice. 1 home match, 1 away match, to see who, of course, will finish top of the pops. Now, if you do finish top of these respective groups, guess what? You're going to the World Cup. It's as simple as that. But if you do finish 2nd in this qualification phase, you're going to go through to yet another qualifying, the 5th round, of course, where I'm not, in fact, not sure what's in store. I think you're going into an intercontinental kind of thing to see, of course, if you can make it through to the last 2 in that one. So it's not over here if you finish 2nd, but if you do finish 3rd, guess what? Your journey is over. That's right. So for this video and this video only, we've only got 2 matches to look forward to, and these are those. That's right. So we're going to get the deep end and predict the outcomes of these coming matches, which are coming at you this coming 8th of October, Wednesday. That's right. So we'll start with a trip to Oman, of course. Oman will be taking on Qatar. That's right, the Jasmine bin Hamad Stadium. Oman, currently managed by Rashid Abdul Al Yafil, coming into this on 50% form for them right now. They've won 2, lost 2, and drawn 2 over the last 6. Up against Qatar under Julian Lopetegui. That's right, the manager of Qatar these days. But they are winless in the last 5. They've taken on Oman 10 times in 2009. 2 wins to Oman, 5 wins to Qatar. There's been 3 draws. Now, on the record for Oman, they have a 2-1 win over Qatar. They have 11 goals scored. They've scored 1.10 goals a game on average. As for Qatar, they have a 3-1 win on their average. 3-1 win on the record. They have a 15 goals scored against the hosts in this one with a 1.50 goals a game. Now, coming into this, they last played in Oman in the Gulf Cup way back in December 2024. It resulted in a 2-1 win for Oman. Now, since they've hosted the World Cup, Oman have gone on a bit of a downward spiral. They've not really been at their very, very best, and hence why they've spent a bit of money in by getting in a top quality manager in Julian Lopetegui. But coming into this, Oman have only won once of the last, what are we looking at, 6 against Qatar. So they have the most recent form coming into this. But if we look at the last few games for both sets of sides here, Oman coming into this on the back of that 1-1 scoreline away to Palestine. Of course, they did lose to Jordan as well. And of course, their last win was their 1-0 win over Kuwait. As for Qatar, 3 friendlies for them. They took on Russia, they lost. They took on Bahrain, they drew. They took on Lebanon, also lost. So it's not been good. And their last win was a 1-0 win over Iran in Qatar, way back in the month of June 2025. A quick look at the odds on this one then, shall we? The odds showcase Qatar are favoured for the victory, but of course Oman are massively out-fancied. For me, Qatar, again, at home will be something else. Of course, they will be taking on the third member of this group, of course, in this qualification phase, and they'll fancy the chances to get a result in that match. But this one, of course, will go down to the bitter end. I think it's going to be a tight old affair, close one, in fact. Going to go with a 1-1 scoreline right here, which, of course, does favour the hosts in this one. But of course, it does put command into Qatar's hands, because basically they'll need to win their next game, and of course they'll probably definitely not finish bottom of this pile with a win. Moving on to the second game of this match is, of course, remember, they are scattered over the next week or so. But today we are focusing on Indonesia taking on Saudi Arabia, also coming at you this coming Wednesday. That's right, of course. Indonesia managed by Patrick Kluivert these days, just one defeat in the last 5, of course. Coming into this up against Saudi Arabia under Hervé Renard, of course, coming into this on 1 win in the last 5 matches themselves. They played 6 times, these two nations, since 2007. Got 1 win for Indonesia. There's been 3 wins for Saudi Arabia. There's been 2 draws. That one and only win for Indonesia was a 2-0 win. They've scored 5 goals in the 6 games, picking up an 0.83 goals a game on average when taking on Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, the visitors have won 3 times. They picked up a 1-0 win. That's their highest. 6 goals scored in those 6 games, 1 goal a game on average. Now, this match will take place at the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium. That's right. Now, the last time they played, it was a 2-0 win for Indonesia in Indonesia back in November 2024. In fact, Indonesia were unbeaten against Saudi Arabia in the qualifying phase, which, of course, was completed in 2024. Prior to that, though, Saudi Arabia had won 4, or at least were unbeaten in 5 of the last 6 matches. So they'll fancy their chances. Coming into this, so Indonesia are on the back of a 0-0 scoreline against Lebanon. Prior to that, they came away with a 6-0 win over Chinese Taipei. The last significant match, though, was a 6-0 drubbing by Japan. As for Saudi Arabia, they're coming into this on the back of that 1-1 scoreline against Czechia. It was a friendly. Also picked up a 2-1 win over North Macedonia as well. Their last competitive match was the Gold Cup quarter-final against Mexico, which they did, of course, lose. The bookies' odds for this one, massively in favour Saudi Arabia, of course. They're expected to win this game, and quite handsomely as well. In fact, both away sides are expected to win these games, which in theory would put them in the driving seat, of course. But for me, of course, I've backed Indonesia from the get-go. They're, of course, going to be there with their loyal fans, of course, screaming them on. And honestly, they need to win this game. If they don't win this game, I do think that Indonesia's World Cup qualifying campaign is going to be over. But for me, somewhere, somehow, I do believe that the stars are aligned for Indonesia, and they're going to scrape away with a cheeky 1-0 win on this one to, of course, put them in a good spot to at least not finish bottom of this pile here. And, of course, an outside glimmer of a shot at qualification, and that would be an absolutely fantastic result for the nation of Indonesia, but it'll be also a fantastic result for the World Cup, of course, because if Indonesia were to qualify, you will not believe the fanfare, you will not believe the reception, you will not believe the reception it will be around the world. Of course, it'll be absolutely spectacular if we can get Indonesia into this World Cup, but they've got to deliver on the day. Biggest game of Indonesian football history is this one against Saudi Arabia. If they win this, then guess what? It's starting to party time now, of course. They won't be there for sure, but of course they'll be very, very close. Anyway, that's it. Make sure you subscribe. We'll be back for the next games, of course, when we'll know the results of these and, of course, see who is in, who is out, who, of course, has got a bit more work to do. But until then, subscribe, smash the like. I'll see you soon. I'm done.